Our live. This is great. Hi, Beth. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. I'm so happy that we are spending time again together.
Yes, I'm excited. I felt like our conversation last time was so easy and natural, and we have so much in common in the way we think about children and families. And I think today's chat will be very productive as well.
Yes. So I'm just checking on my phone right now, and it says, according to this, we're going to go live in 2 minutes. But according to my laptop, it says we're live right now. So
Okay.
technology, I have no idea. So we'll just wait a few more minutes for some friends to find us and join us. I think this is actually teaching us patience. I feel like every time we go live, we have to wait for friends to join us. So it teaches us to just slow down and have patience.
Yeah.
How's your day been going?
It was fantastic. I just recorded a podcast with Chase Marks, who's located in the UK, and he has a mental health podcast called Mindful Escapist. And
Mm.
it's basically he interviews people in the mental health profession and sort of gets a behind the scenes take on all kinds of different issues. And today we talked a lot about parenting and mental health and the impact that COVID has had. So similar things to what we're going to talk about today. So I'm primed and ready to go, and I'm so excited to be here with you. We're going to have a great
Yes, yes.
conversation.
Me too, me too. This podcast that you're talking about, I think this is so timely, and so many people who are professionals, if they can take the time and they can share their expertise and, make themselves available, it just is such a nice service, I feel.
Yeah, I do too. And that's pretty much been my goal this whole past year is just to I went into action mode, and I just really wanted to help as many people as I could with the knowledge that I had, because I knew that a lot of people were feeling anxiety for the first time in their life, and I'm no stranger to anxiety, so I'm familiar with it, and I've been trained in how to cope with it, and I've lived it myself, and I just wanted to take all that knowledge and like give it to as many people as possible, and so that's what I did this past year.
I know. I think I agree with you. Being in the space of wanting to share and care and make a difference, I think in our heart of it, we actually just want to make a difference, right? This is why we go into the field that we did. And I was listening to a program this morning, and they were talking about how to have mental health, to have, they actually started what is the secret for happiness? And that was what the conversation was. And what they were talking about was the secret to happiness is not some magical something that you pay somebody something, or you go somewhere and you have a retreat, or whatever it is. It comes when you have a contribution to make, and when you can make a difference to help someone, and you have a gratitude heart. And I thought that is so simple and so at the core of our profession, right? I mean, those of us who are educators, supporting, whether it's children or whether it's families or whether it's adults, really just want to contribute, really just want to make a difference.
Exactly. Yeah. And I never thought of myself as a teacher, but over
Mm.
this last year, that's what I've fallen into, and I'm loving it. I'm lit up from the inside out by it. It has helped me get through this past difficult year, and it's just been like a gift to be able to share with others what they're going through, and in the same time, I'm sharing what I'm going through. So
That's right.
yeah,
That's
it's a win. It's a win-win, and I don't
right.
see myself
Yeah.
as the expert. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm going through this too.
Yeah, I know. We're all in the same space together. So I think it's time maybe we should introduce each other, because maybe some friends are joining us. But so today I have Beth Tyson with me, and it's absolutely a pleasure and an honor to share you and your knowledge and about you to others. If they haven't met you, you're absolutely delightful. You have a young daughter that who you have homeschooled this year, and we became friends over this year and clicked right away. your expertise is trauma specialist. That's the job that you do, helping others cope with trauma, understand trauma, and support them through it. You're also a published author. Oh my goodness, that is so amazing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is it Grandparents for Sullivan, or is it?
So it's called A Grand Family for Sullivan, and it's a story about children who have to live with their grandparents when, for whatever reason, their parents are unable to keep them safe or take care of them. So it could be from mental health issues, substance abuse, incarceration, lots of different reasons. But a lot of times, people or children end up in the care of their grandparents, and there just aren't a lot of books or a lot of discussion around this topic, and I wanted to bring awareness to it. There's 2.8 million grand families in the United States,
Can you
and
believe that?
yeah, and it's
That's a
growing
lot.
every day. Yeah, so that's how I kind of got started in this whole public speaking realm of doing podcasts and webinars and everything over the last year. I had no idea. The book propelled me and sort of took me along on this journey with it when I published the book, to be out there speaking about this topic. And I've enjoyed it. It's been great.
Yeah. I feel the same way. This is not my normal space of all this webinars and podcasts and all of this. I was doing trainings in person in schools, supporting educators and directors and consulting and coaching. And over this year, I've been coaching families, which again, I did not plan that, but somehow, God has a better plan than we do. And I have found this over and over again this year, that God's plan is better than our plan.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
so, yeah, so you had written an article about the anniversary of COVID coming up, which literally for us starts next week, because last year we did spring break with my granddaughter, and we continued after that. Literally, first grade wrapped up in homeschooling, second grade is now in coming up to spring break, because spring break is next week. And here we are a year later. And I don't know about you, but we certainly did not think we would be here today doing this anniversary conversation.
Yeah, no, not at the time, right? I mean,
No.
I had an idea that it was going to be a long haul, but I never anticipated it being quite this long. So yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So, what would you like to start off with by, what should we be aware of as the anniversary approaches? What is something that, makes sense? How do we unpack this?
Yeah, sure. So, for the first time in most of our living history, we all experienced the collective trauma or a mass trauma that happened all around the globe. Usually a mass or collective trauma is at least contained to an area, right? But this time it was everywhere, and there was no escaping it. And there was so much uncertainty, and there still is, around the virus and what it might do, and whether it's going to hit you hard or not. And there's so much uncertainty, and what we know about uncertainty is that it causes a lot of anxiety, and anxiety leads to depression, and vice versa. There's sort of two sides of the same coin, anxiety and depression. And so we've seen a lot of mental health issues and challenges coming up over this past year, and with the anniversary popping up, it's interesting because, at least for me, I like to talk about my own experience, is that over the past year, I was kind of in survival mode, like just going, trying to help where I could, trying to keep my own sanity in place and in check. And now that it's been a year, and the reminders of when it all first hit us, and the reality of what it was going to be like, I've been extra anxious lately, and having trouble waking up at night, and things that I wasn't feeling, just a couple months ago. And so it hit me that, oh my gosh, I am having a reaction, I think, to the anniversary that is happening. And it can happen leading up to the anniversary, like the first few weeks leading up to, or it can linger on, for weeks after the anniversary. In this case, it was kind of like a nebulous beginning. It wasn't like, bam, one day we had COVID and one day we we didn't. It was sort of like over time we kind of started coming to the reality of what this was going to mean for our lives. And so really the next couple of weeks, even the next 2 months, could be triggering for people. And with trauma, the anniversary kicks up anniversary reactions. So that could be anxiety, depression. With children, you'll see more frequent emotional outbursts. You'll see a rise in their hyperactivity or their inability to sit still and manage their emotions. You might see more tantrums. You might see them waking up with nightmares or having trouble going to bed at night, needing extra comfort and soothing. And what I want to come out here to say today is that all this is very normal. Like, I don't want the alarm system to be going off for you and you blaming yourself that something's wrong with you or your parenting or your child, when this is all a really normal, common reaction to anniversary events around trauma.
And this anniversary global trauma, like you said, we have all collectively experienced it. And so I agree, it's not alarm bells and scare and kind of feeling anxious about it, whether you are or not right now. But I think the reason we wanted to have this space of conversation was, if we can become aware, then we can, if you're sitting on the side of the beach, so if the analogy is that you're on the side of the beach and you watch the waves coming towards you, if you are aware that the wave is coming, you can probably ride it. Versus if you just are taken by surprise and then you get swallowed by it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and the other thing that I would say is emotions, as rough as they may be, anxiety is not a pleasant emotion. Fear is not a pleasant emotion that we want to experience, but emotions are normal human reactions and we have to go through them. You can't suppress them, you can't avoid them. And so for me personally, I think being aware that I might have this up and down, I might have this wave of feeling different emotions. The point is not to avoid it. The point is not to suppress it. The point is to allow your body to experience it and recognize it. Yeah. Okay, here comes fear. Okay, how can I reassure myself? Okay, I'm recognizing that I'm feeling nervous and anxious because of the uncertainty in the future, or just feeling sad and depressed because of the rough year of somebody who's had. I mean, if somebody has lost a family member, this is real, this is huge, this is rough. And so I think that to me is the biggest thing, being aware.
Yes, I think the awareness can shift your perspective, because if you just start having emotions and you don't understand where they might be coming from, you have a tendency to blame yourself and to ask yourself, like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I handle this? I was doing fine a month ago. Why am I all of a sudden? And not only the anniversary reminders, so like the reminders are, the weather, the spring weather here on the East Coast is bringing up a lot of memories for me as I remember what I was doing last year this time. Easter coming up might be a trigger for some people because we were, not able to see family for the first time and not celebrate the way we normally would. But also the fact that things are lightening up, like in terms of, the vaccine is giving people a lot of hope, and the fact that numbers have been going down in certain areas, that can even trigger anxiety, because what I'm finding is that I have underlying health conditions, so I qualified for the vaccine already, and I've had my 2 shots, but I'm like still afraid to go do things, and not that I'm going to go out and do things, with reckless abandon. I'm still going to do all my precautions and be safe and only go when I need to, but it's like I am just, even like regular things like going to the grocery store is, I'm double thinking it, and so I think the fact that things are opening up again and we've been so sheltered down and so hunkered down for so long, I think even that could be triggering for people, like, oh my gosh, I got to come out of my shell a little bit. And
so you're a little bit ahead of me. I've only had my first vaccine,
okay,
and I'm waiting for my second one, and it's going to come end of March. But I can associate with what you're saying. Part of it is also, I have enjoyed this year in terms of slowing down,
Mhm.
and in terms of regrouping, and in terms of so many new opportunities that came along this year. And so part of me is also a little bit feeling um, sad that I might have to give that up, and it might go back to the madness, and I'm not sure if I want to go back to the madness. But the other part of me is um, the missed things that have happened. I've had a new grandchild that was born, and I missed the baby shower, I missed the birth, and this baby is now almost 9 months old, and I haven't held this baby. And so I also feel sadness for that. It's very conflicting, these emotions that are coming. It's not very cut and dry, it's not very in the box. It's all of this. Is There's fear of giving up, fear of going out again. When do we stop? I heard somebody saying, even if you get your vaccines, you still have to keep distance and wear a mask because you may be a carrier. And I'm like, I haven't had it, how do I become a carrier? Like,
Yeah. It's confusing. It's
it
confusing.
it
Yeah.
is. So in terms of, so if anybody's listening, I don't know who's watching us, but if anybody's listening, I would be curious to know what has been the one thing that has kept you going this year. So if you can put it in the chat, I would love to know, what is the one thing that has kept you going and is giving you hope, or has given you hope this year. What about you, Beth? What has kept you going? And then I'll share mine.
Sure. First and foremost, my daughter, just um, having her as my priority and all the extra time I've got to spend with her. And, that kind of is hitting me too. Just, I so resonated with what you just said about, kind of liking the way that things had slowed down and having all that extra time with close loved ones. And so, yeah, she really kept me grounded this year. When I was starting to get nervous or scared, I had to be strong for her, and so, and she's so funny that she just bring me right back into the present moment, which is always helpful. But also, doing this type of work, getting out there online. I have never done this online life I've been doing,
I'm
and
right there with you. Yes, this is
yeah,
all not my normal space.
no, I am much more comfortable in person than I am online, really. And so I've just been breaking out of my shell doing that and trying to get comfortable with these new formats and trying new things, and that has really just kept me inspired and grounded, and finding some light within all the darkness.
Yeah.
You.
So yes, my granddaughter, because we've been homeschooling, family nearby, um, but faith. I think when it comes down to it, I think faith and having a gratitude mindset has really reminded me on a daily basis all that I have to be grateful for, and that helps me to feel like I can do it, I can keep going. But I'd be curious to know, what other things are people experiencing in terms of this. So if you had to give advice, what would be your nugget as people go through March and April? Because I don't know if after 2 months, will it still feel like, I'm sure it will, because as things change, it'll feel like, oh, the first time, oh, it's been so long the first time. So I'm sure there'll be triggers for that too. But
Yeah.
what would your one nugget be so people can ride the wave instead of being swallowed by it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is all about finding out like what works for you and your body. We can't calm the mind unless we calm the body first. And so, if we can find different coping strategies for helping our body to relax and feel at peace, then you can start to change the way you're thinking about things. But so I've been doing a lot of training in like well, I'm being certified as an EMDR therapist, and so
Tell us what that is.
it's well, EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and it's a very specialized evidence-based technique that helps people work through anywhere that they're stuck in their mental health journey. So, for example, if you've gone to talk therapy and you've gone to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and it has helped you a little bit, but you're still feeling like there's something stuck that you just can't get past. EMDR can be a great alternative to help you sort of really move through that. And it's all about using your eyes to reprocess memories. So it works really well for people with
How interesting.
yeah, it works really well for people with trauma. There's so much research on the effectiveness of this technique and this strategy, and it's really eye opening to me to be trained in that. And so I've been getting in touch with how when we start to feel really upset about something, it's usually because it's tied back to something in your past. Whenever you feel triggered, it's usually you can tie it back to another example of a time when you felt that way. So anything that brings up big emotions for you or your children over the next few months or a few weeks, you want to ask yourself, like, when did I feel this way before? When was the first
Mm,
time I felt this way? And kind of
mm,
try and unpack, like, what that trigger is connected to. It's usually connected to something deeper from your past, a time when you were when you felt helpless. A lot of the pandemic is bringing up feelings of helplessness. Not
mm.
being able to help yourself, help others, not being able to predict what's going to come. The uncertainty of it all. And if you can think back to a time in your past when you felt that way, you might uncover why this is so scary and so
Mm,
hard for you to face. But just knowing those and accepting that we're emotional beings, and
mm,
we have to validate our emotions and sort of lean into them instead of leaning away from them.
mhm.
Even with children, and we may have touched on this last time, but when we validate our children's emotions and we accept their emotions instead of trying to distract them or try to fix it or solve the problem for them, it actually has the opposite effect that we think that it will. It's like a counterintuitive thing. But when you lean into a child's emotions and you validate them and say, "Yeah, this is really scary for you," or it's really sad that you lost your grandfather this year to COVID."
Yeah.
When you can lean into those emotions, that's going to actually help the child and yourself process and heal from the experience much faster than if you
Mhm.
try to distract or ignore
Right.
the
Yeah.
issues or sort of brush everything under the rug and not talk about it.
Yep.
Talking about it's always better than ignoring the issue or even distracting
Yeah.
from the issue.
I agree. I think, and then the point that you made about, calming the mind before you can calm the body, I think that's so key. So I'm absolutely 100% proponent of meditation.
Hmm.
And meditation is becoming more acceptable terminology now. People are not thinking, oh, it's something foo-foo out there. They're realizing how important it is to calm your brain, and doing the right type of meditation can actually rest and restore your brain, which is where the stress is coming from. All the thinking is happening in the brain, all the nonstop worrying is happening in the brain. And I think when we can calm the brain down, we can refocus. We can, realign and see a new perspective. So, big proponent of that. I actually do teach meditation for moms, just 30 minutes once a week. It's actually happening every day of the week, but different instructors lead it. And we've seen a lot of people come and just feel rested and just feel relaxed, which is so, so key. So definitely doing something for yourself in terms of health in the brain. I think of all a friend of mine was saying the other day, we were talking, she said, we take such good care of what we put in our body in terms of food.
Hmm.
Why don't we take the same care of our brain, and in terms of the information that we are putting in our brain, the overload that we're putting in our brain, and why don't we think about our brain as something that we have to intentionally be careful of what we are absorbing and what we are thinking, and the self-talk. The whole self-talk can be quite discouraging, and all the thinking and the planning can be quite overwhelming. So if we become more intentional, that's
Right.
something to think about.
You're like hitting on all. It's so funny how interesting that the conversation I had this morning on that podcast was so similar, because I was sharing with them about my brain diet, and I wasn't talking about food for the brain, although that's also important. I was talking about what I feed, what type of information and input that I feed my brain on a regular basis. And because I'm a more sensitive person, according to some, which, for better or worse, I I have to be careful of what I input into my brain. And, so for what that means for me is, I can't have the news on all the time.
Yeah.
I have to get my news in bits and pieces when I'm feeling ready for it. I can't just
Yeah.
have it, bombarded at me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just noticing that we had some friends join us. So hi Gunjan, hi Sana, thank you for joining us. And Gunjan was sharing that family and virtual meets and meditation is helping her
Okay,
stay
great.
grounded this year. And yes, I think the more that we can share what helps each one of us. And Gunjan is a doctor, so please share some, doctor perspective of what people could be thinking about during trauma or trauma anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yes. The brain diet. I like that word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very intentional about meditating every day. This is for sure, and I think meditation can be as simple as listening to nature sounds. Meditation can be simple as deep breathing. There are many types of meditations out there, but pick one that you can actually align with to see a difference. Like not, just reading something or thinking about something, because that's still not resting your brain.
Right. Yeah. I recently learned about, again, through this training that I'm doing, it's called bilateral stimulation. Have you ever heard of this?
No, tell me more.
It's so fascinating, and it works for me. I know it might not work for everybody, but it really works for me. And I've been sharing it with everybody I talk to, because it just has changed my reaction to stress. But I would say it's a type of mindfulness using bilateral stimulation on either side of your body. So what I do is, you can do it many different ways. You can even do it with bilateral drawings. But the way I do it is with my arms crossed over my hands. It's called a butterfly hug, and you tap each shoulder. And when you do this, you're integrating the two hemispheres of your brain. And while you're doing this, your body just naturally starts to relax, and you can think about or picture yourself in a peaceful place, which is like a meditative type of mindset. And you can also say reaffirming and comforting words to yourself. And what I like to do is say things that are believable. So if I just sit here and go, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, and I'm clearly not fine, that's not going to work. That's not going to land. I have to say something that resonates. So it has to be, so maybe I'll say things like, I've, I've been through worse, and I've come out of it before, or, I can get through hard things. I've been through hard things before, and things that feel really true.
So you are so resonating with me right now, because I totally believe in affirmations as well. And part of the meditation that I do is also affirmations, and I'll share that in a minute. But something that you shared about crossing your midline and doing this,
Mm-hmm.
it actually helps your attention to be fully present. That's the
Okay.
other part, right? So when my brain is off thinking and I do something like this, I am actually reminding my brain to be fully present where I am. So be where your feet are, and tapping something helps me to be right here to get centered. So I can see why that would work.
Yeah.
Some of the affirmations that I use are really connecting with our heart, and just putting my hand on the heart and just saying, I want to be one with my true self, because my true self is not my ego and not my title and not the superficial thing, but the true self, that the essence of who makes me who I am. So
Yeah.
just even desiring, just putting a hand on your heart and just desiring, I want to be one with my true self, or putting a hand in the center of your heart and saying, help me to feel confident and secure, because we have everything we need inside us.
Yeah.
And there's this one, the left shoulder, everybody likes that one. the not guilty one, because we store so much guilt, but there's actually a body part that the guilt gets stored in. It's our left shoulder. And so that's why you have neck pain, and that's why you walk like this. But if you recognize that, oh my God, I'm feeling guilty, and just release it, just have grace on yourself and just say, I'm not guilty. You can reduce some of this pressure that you're putting on yourself. So 100%, I agree with you. Affirmations, being fully present where your feet are, resting your brain. Yes, media diet, brain diet, whatever you want to call it, so that whatever you're watching is healthy and uplifting and positive versus feeling scared and overwhelmed.
Exactly. I agree with that.
This is why we love connecting, because we can talk forever.
I know. I could go on and on.
I know.
There's something that you said that just sparked me, and about guilt. And last night I was a guest speaker in a grief support group, and many of the people in the grief support group had lost loved ones to COVID. And they were unable to be there in the hospital with them. And there was just a ton of regret and guilt and sadness over that lack of connection with their loved ones, even at the end. And so I shared with them about the difference between regret and guilt, and how when we can differentiate between the two, we can approach the way we heal from it from a different perspective. And so it was just fascinating to think about that, and how different those two emotions are, and the different things that we can do. And one of the suggestions that I offered was to, if you have lost a loved one, or if there's grief within the family, is to first, that self-forgiveness piece, it takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. And it can help to remind yourself that, like, you did the best that you could at the time, just sort of reminding yourself that like you did the best that you could at the time, and there was really no other thing that you could do about it. But the reason that we guilt ourselves, which I think is just so eye-opening, is the reason that we guilt ourselves a lot of times, not always, but is because it gives us a sense of control.
So yes, I think this word regret and guilt is very interesting to separate. I would look at guilt as a lesson that we can learn and get better and move past. Right. So if we feel guilty about something, if we go to the core of it, what am I feeling guilty about? And can I learn a lesson, and can I move past it? Then that's serving a purpose. Regret, on the other hand, just makes you live with a sense of heaviness. Like, it's hard to release it, because regret is, but I get it. I mean, if you've lost a family member and you were not in the hospital, I get the regret. But the other affirmation, when you said about self-forgiveness, I think it's really important that, if anybody's facing this, to put your hand on the forehead and just say, I forgive myself and I forgive others. Right? So if you were not able to be there, or you were not able to do something, at some point, recognizing that I did my best and I forgive myself and I forgive others can help to make it go past. So we have a comment coming in. So from the doctor perspective, it can be traumatic experience as people are getting vaccines, and we are positive and hopeful. I'm sorry, I'm reading it. Hopeful that we can get close to herd immunity by summer or sooner. Holding on to positivity helps. Meditation has a lot of health benefits. Mental, physical, emotional well-being is enhanced by it. Thank you for sharing good information. Thank you for adding value to this conversation from a doctor's perspective. But yeah, I think a lot has to do with how we are treating ourselves. Are we sitting in the guilt space? Are we sitting in the regret space? Are we sitting in a being very hard on ourselves space and not able to forgive ourselves? Are we feeling guilty that we had a good year? Are we feeling guilty that others didn't? Are we feeling guilty that we don't want this to end? There's so many reasons to feel guilt, but if we can recognize it, that it's not healthy, then we can release it and live for today, live our best life for today, and show up for today. Um, and try not to worry about the future and regret about the past, and hold the memories. If you've lost somebody, remember them, remember their memories, keep their legacy alive. I mean, the thing with the whole destiny is hard. If it's destined, that's why it happened. But it's harder for the people left behind. It's so much harder for the people left behind. So, Beth, we could talk for hours, because I can wait for one day for us to actually meet
Yeah.
in the real world, because we've clicked so much on this platform. It would be lovely to connect and talk for hours, because I feel like we could. But we are at the half an hour mark, which I think is plenty. So I think in as we wrap up, any one last thought?
Just that, my heart really goes out to everybody, and I just I want to be a resource for people if they are struggling. I also want to just let others know that I'm thinking about them, and that I hope that we can find a way to get through this, and most importantly, that if you're experiencing any of these emotions, these strong emotions right now, you are not alone. But if it's interfering with your everyday functioning, please seek mental health care. Please reach out to a therapist. Please, speak to your doctor, and get the help and support that you need. Help is available for anybody who's struggling with mental health issues right now during this time, and it's so important to have professional, individualized attention. What we talk about here today is educational purposes, but it's also, if you're really having trouble functioning in your everyday life, please seek help, and know that you can get through this.
I would echo that. You're not alone would be the one message, that, if even though it feels like you're alone, reach out to somebody, and make the effort. If somebody hasn't reached out to you, don't be hesitant. Reach out to somebody. Take care of yourself. And all I can say is, wishing everybody the best year ahead, while recognizing this year has been very different for very different families, and it's been a wide range of trauma and wide range of optimism. So, you know, recognizing that people have suffered, and my heart does go out to everybody, but also a reminder, if you're listening to this, you're not alone. Collectively, we somebody can help you. You're not alone is maybe a good message to remember, because we feel alone when we are feeling depressed, when we're going down a spiral. It feels very hard. Okay, my friend, this is where we end.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if anybody wants to learn more, let's just share about where people can find us, so that if they want to connect with us, you can go first.
Absolutely. So Together We Grow online is where I can be reached, and I support families for coaching children, whether you're having behaviors or not, or whether you just want to give your child the best start in life. Reach out to me. I'd love to connect with you. 30 minutes free consultation. And Beth, where can they reach you?
Sure, you can learn more about me and connect with me on my website, bethtyson.com. And I offer trauma-informed consulting to organizations, families, caregivers, hospitals, schools, you name it. And I can also be kept up to date with, where I'm very active in my Facebook group, Emotiminds. That's EMOTIMINDS. Emotiminds.
Awesome.
So hope to see you all there. Thank you
Awesome.
for
All
having
right.
me
Thank
today.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was lovely talking to you.
Okay.
Okay.